What if I told you one of the Nazis' most feared weapons was built in secret, outside of Germany, to dodge the Treaty of Versailles? The 88mm Flak gun wasn't just an anti-aircraft gun. It became one of the most lethal, adaptable weapons of World War II. From Spain to North Africa to the Eastern Front, it shredded tanks, downed bombers, and shaped entire battlefields. In this episode, we reveal how it was built, how it worked, and why it changed warfare forever. Let's dive into the real story of the 88mm Flak gun. The German 88mm Flak gun stands as one of the most iconic and adaptable weapons produced during World War II, deployed on diverse fronts such as North Africa, the Eastern Front, and Western Europe. Its versatility ensured that it remained a pivotal asset throughout the entire war and remained in service for several decades following the end of World War II, seeing active service with several nations. In this episode, we will be covering the 88mm Flak gun's design, development, and its use throughout its illustrious history. We will be focusing on these three 88mm Flak gun models, the 1836 and 37. In our follow-up episode, we will be taking a closer look at the mechanics of the gun, giving you a better understanding of how the 88mm Flak gun functioned in its ground attack role and in its air defense role. The genesis of the 88mm Flak gun can be traced back to the aftermath of World War I. Following Germany's surrender on November the 11th of 1918, the Treaty of Versailles, signed in June of 1919, imposed strict military limitations on Germany. Articles 164 through 172 of the treaty restricted German manufacturers like Krupp and Rheinmetall from producing specific weapons and specific calibers of weapons. In response, Krupp forged an agreement with Sweden's Bofors company in 1921, allowing clandestine research and development outside of Germany. In return, Bofors received foreign rights to Krupp's designs. By 1928, Krupp engineers in Sweden secretly crafted a high-velocity, semi-automatic 88mm caliber gun. In 1931, the finalized plans were returned to Germany, and by 1932, Krupp presented its prototype. Designed for anti-aircraft use, the gun fired explosive shells at nearly 2,700 feet per second, reaching a ceiling of 25,000 feet. Mass production commenced in 1933 in partnership with Rheinmetall as the Flak 18. Now, the designation Flak 18 was purposely given to circumvent the 1919 treaty, hiding the fact that this was a new gun design masquerading as an older, pre-existing design from 1918. The rise of the Nazi regime in 1933 led to open violations of the Treaty of Versailles. As Germany rearmed, the Spanish Civil War in 1936 became a proving ground for new tactics and technologies. Germany supplied the Spanish nationalists with troops and equipment to include the Flak 18. Its performance exceeded expectations, both as an anti-aircraft and a ground attack weapon. It must also be noted that it was the Spanish nationalist gun crews who pioneered the use of the 88 against ground targets. German observers made note of the fact and sent word of this new discovery back to Berlin for new tactics and procedures to be developed for the engagement of ground targets. Shortly after the Spanish conflict, Germany invaded Poland in 1939, igniting World War II. Mass production commenced in 1933 in partnership with Rheinmetall as the Flak 18. Now, in 1941, each Flak 18 cost 31,750 Reichsmark, approximately 12,700 US dollars at that time, or in today's money, $222,000. Production employed nearly 800,000 workers between 1944 and 1945, including women, children, the elderly, and in some cases prisoners of war, as there was a labor shortage. The gun's simple design allowed rapid manufacturing on existing production lines, with 21,000 Flak 18, 36, and 37 guns produced by the war's end. It has been estimated that a staggering 360 88mm Flak guns were lost every month in 1944 due to combat losses and excessive wear. Initially, barrel life was a persistent challenge, given the gun's high rate of fire, its high velocity, its use of corrosive powders, and copper driving bands fitted to the high explosive shells. All of these factors contributing to generating excessive heat, which greatly reduced the barrel's service life. The original monoblock barrel lasted roughly 1,000 rounds before a replacement was needed. To address this, Rheinmetall developed the RA9 multi-section barrel, which allowed replacement of only the worn rifled sections of the barrel. A cost-saving measure that for many reasons in its application was not very practical. Both monoblock and modular barrels were interchangeable among Flak 18 and 36 models. Dimensionally and ballistically, they were identical. Now the barrel featured a 32-groove, right-hand dual twist rate, which is designed to optimize projectile stabilization. This innovation led to improved accuracy and extended the barrel life. By 1943, improved propellants and ammunition further increased the 88's barrel longevity, allowing manufacturers to go back to the monoblock constructed gun barrels. The early Flak 18 models required specialized bogie systems for transport. The early 201 special trailer was restrictive, only allowing the gun to be towed muzzle forward. The front assembly was not interchangeable with the rear. Additionally, the gun could not engage ground targets while sitting on the trailer assembly. Improvements led to the 202 special trailer, allowing either a muzzle forward or a breech forward towing, which facilitated faster deployment of the gun. These changes allowed the 88 to engage ground targets while sitting on the new trailer. Crews could prepare the gun for firing in just over 2 minutes. The new special trailer is primarily what sets the Flak 18 and the Flak 36 gun models apart. It should also be noted that the Flak 18, 36, and 37 were air transportable. Now the massive 6-engine radial-powered Messerschmitt 323, referred to as the Gigant or the Giant, could transport 2 88s, highlighting the gun's strategic mobility. As we look at the advancements in instrumentation, initially the Flak 18 and the 36 shared aiming instruments, designated as the Transmission Device 30. These devices relied on a series of 3 concentrically oriented, illuminated rings of lamps. Fuse setters also used lamp-based indicators, translating shot data from the battery director. A major drawback to this early arrangement was the use of the 10-volt bulbs. If any of these bulbs burned out, it was possible to incorrectly track the target and possibly apply incorrect fuse settings. Now in the beginning, the fuse setter was a separate, standalone device, allowing fuses to be cut a single shell at a time. The fuse setter on the 36 was mounted to the gun itself, along with an operator's seat and an additional shell position, allowing 2 fuses to be cut simultaneously. Gear ratios in the elevation and traverse controls were updated, along with improvements in the equalizer's performance. These enhancements accommodated smoother and faster operation of the gun's elevation and traversing controls. Now it's kind of unclear as to when the new follow-the-pointer Transmission Device 36 aiming and fuse setting systems were introduced on the Flak 36. This new instrumentation provided a much more accurate and reliable method of target tracking and fuse setting than the previous instrumentation. The introduction of the Flak 37 brought an even greater improved pointer-based tracking system. The Flak 37, equipped with this new instrumentation and fire control systems, was generally reserved for anti-aircraft use. The 88's armor shields did not appear until late 1939 and early 1940, priority being given to 88s deployed near front lines, providing crew protection from small arms fire and blast fragments. The 88mm Flak guns saw various mountings on tracked and wheeled vehicle platforms along with naval vessels and other notable fixed positions. The mighty 88 was mounted on half-tracks, buses, trains, and various tank chassis. Adaptations included the 15-ton half-track and the 12-ton half-track, the latter referred to as the bunker flak, and even a captured Soviet T-34. The Tiger I and II tanks incorporated 88mm turrets based on the Flak 41 design. The 26th Panzer Division utilized a modified Panther tank chassis built in 1944. Its most unique feature was the adaptation of fold-down armor, which was needed for the 88 in order to rotate 360 degrees. Only one was known to have been built. One of the oddest configurations was the Volmag 7. It was a 3-axle, 9-ton bus chassis that was chosen for this mobile platform. These vehicles were originally built for and used exclusively by the 1st Battalion of Flak Regiment 42. Their mission was to escort and protect the Führer. The division received 20 vehicles of this type by the spring of 1941. In general, each unit in the battalion had 3 gun carriers, 2 rangefinder carriers, and other assorted escort vehicles. Now, by 1945, all known vehicles of this type were destroyed by Soviet forces on the Eastern Front. Some of the flak gun's more famous fixed positions include several flak towers built in Austria and Germany. 16 massive flak towers were constructed. 6 towers in Berlin, 6 towers in Vienna, and 4 towers in Hamburg. These towers housed 8 of the much larger 128mm Flak 40 guns and 32 20mm guns. Each tower capable of a sustained rate of 7,000 to 8,000 rounds per minute and a 360-degree arc. The larger 128mm Flak 40s had a range of 8.5 miles and a ceiling of nearly 50,000 feet. Now that is some serious firepower, folks. These towers also served as air raid shelters for the city's residents. By 1942, the Mediterranean theater was a critical battleground. North Africa's coastline became a focal point for naval activity. The 88's role would expand to coastal defense, engaging naval threats. The 88's capability to engage moving targets at sea became a significant threat to Allied shipping. Now, the SDKF-Z7, which is an 8-ton towing tractor, was the primary mover for the 88mm Flak gun. It carried the gun crew, their personal gear, weapons, a complement of tools, and 35 rounds of 88mm ammunition. The gun itself weighed over 16,300 pounds in its travel position, necessitating the use of such a robust transport vehicle. Although designed in the late 20s, full-scale production would not begin until 1939. Krauss-Maffei, Borgward, Daimler-Benz, and Sauerwerk all produced the 8-ton towing tractor. In all, just over 12,000 were built. The gun crew organization was very meticulous, with 10 main positions: cannoneers K1 through K9, and then the commander. Typically, crews cross-trained to fill multiple roles, with procedures carefully governed by their assigned numbers. Some cannoneers' positions were target-specific. Their assignments and responsibilities might change depending on the type of engagement. Only positions K1, who was the elevation setter, K2, who was the azimuth setter, and K3, who was the loader and firer, would remain constant. It should be noted that these 88mm Flak gun crews were elite amongst the Luftwaffe flak and field divisions. Consequently, these forces succumbed to extremely high battlefield losses. Towards the end of the war, these crews were piecemealed together, receiving minimal training and lacking experience. They tried desperately, but without success, to prevent the devastation of the Third Reich. Operational procedures are directed by the type of engagement: ground attack or aerial attack. Direct fire for ground attack employed optical sights, such as the Flak ZF-20 and the ZF-20 Echo model, mounted to the gun, operated by the K1 position. Specialized telescopes were utilized for indirect fire. The Panoramic Telescope 32 was an optical device designed to align artillery with the stereoscopic director for indirect fire against ground targets. All guns in the battery needed to be set to the same 0. Upon proper alignment, the panoramic telescope ensures the line of sight matches the calculated azimuth. This sight mounts to the top of the recuperator cylinder when it's in use. Range-finding devices such as the Model 34 and Model EM-1M enhanced accuracy, providing accurate ranging data. Now, K1 and K2 operated the hand wheels and their gear settings, enabling precise traverse and elevation adjustments. Communication among crew was facilitated by bells and headsets, ensuring coordinated operation directed from the gun commander and/or the battery commander. Now, the 10x80 Flak spotting binoculars were primarily employed for aircraft identification. Originally designed for maritime use, but gained popularity amongst the flak gun crews. In its anti-aircraft role, the 88 battery was a technological marvel. The use of searchlights, radar, listening devices, and sophisticated target tracking and predicting devices was phenomenal for its time. Now, we have only briefly covered the 88's operation and use on the field of battle. This topic will be covered at length in a future episode. Now, the German 88 ammunition is categorized into two types. You have high explosive, HE, and armor-piercing, AP. By 1944, there were 19 different rounds available for the 88mm gun. HE and AP rounds can be described by warhead shape, composition, the explosive content, fuse configuration, shell casing and projectile markings, and the overall appearance and the presence of twin driving bands. In 1941, a significant number of defective 88mm rounds upon firing detonated before leaving the gun, more than likely resulting in significant injuries and/or the deaths of the gun crew. In the last quarter of 1943, the German munitions industry produced approximately 1,440,000 88mm rounds per month, which was below its target of 2 million rounds per month. 88mm rounds were often transported in wooden-framed wicker ammunition baskets, each basket carrying 3 rounds. When loaded, the basket weighed a little over 100 pounds. For air defense, these batteries formed part of the Luftwaffe's massive air defense network. The flak batteries were manpower intensive, absorbing enormous resources to continue defending the homeland. Towards the end of the war, the shortage of military-aged men and seasoned troops to man the guns was relegated to the Hitler Youth. By 1944, German flak defenses consumed 1/3 of all of German ammunition production. Shortages of all kinds plagued Germany's ability to effectively defend its homeland. As Allied bombing intensified, the 88mm flak guns were widely deployed across German cities and industrial centers. Now, initially, the Luftwaffe deployed 29 flak divisions grouped into 7 corps at its peak strength. Each division was constructed with 5 flak regiments. The regiments were composed of battalions, which were designated as either a light, a mixed, or a heavy, depending on the size of the guns with which they were equipped. A flak division also consisted of 1 searchlight regiment, 3 motorized flak transport battalions, 1 air signals battalion, and numerous supply troops. The number of transport battalions varied depending on the location of the battery. Batteries out in remote areas required more transport assets than a battery located around a city. The 88 battery itself can be broken down into its basic components. First, we have early warning and detection. Now, its purpose is to provide maximum advance notice of incoming bombers to alert defenses of the incoming threat. Devices for this purpose include radar, acoustic listening devices, human observation, and radio signals intelligence. Second, we have fire control and target tracking. Its purpose is to gather data on the approaching aircraft's altitude, speed, and heading. Devices for this purpose include short-range radar used to provide azimuth and elevation data. Stereoscopic rangefinders provided distance to target. Fire control analog computers and predictors captured the incoming data, providing shot data and fuse settings to each of the guns in the battery. All of this information must be coordinated, translated, and communicated to the guns of the battery or multiple batteries. Thus, a command and control center is utilized to synchronize the batteries, prioritizing targets, continually calculating firing solutions, and managing overlapping arcs of fire. In support of these actions, special measures were taken to increase the effectiveness of the battery operating in darkness or other adverse conditions. Spotlights of varying size and intensity were used to illuminate bombers at night. Smoke generators were used to obscure targets during the day. Entire populations were ordered to remain blacked out at night to eliminate visual landmarks used by the bomber crews. Various forms of camouflage were used to hide strategic positions and false targets were constructed to confuse bomber crews. Typical arrangement of a 4 or 6 gun battery might vary depending on the terrain and specific mission being performed by the battery. Guns were often positioned in individually excavated gun pits for protection, and placements typically around 40 yards apart. The command post housed the sophisticated fire control equipment. Positioning of the command post was up to 300 yards from the guns, often to the rear or off to the side of the formation. Batteries would typically fire in a coordinated salvo, multiple guns targeting the same aircraft. The high explosive or HE shells delivering its fragmentation against incoming aircraft. We mentioned the use of spotlights, and here at the museum we have on display one of the 150 centimeter floodlights along with its 24 kilowatt generator providing the necessary power to operate the light. The spotlight here has a build date of 1940 with a serial number of 726 out of 7,311 mobile spotlights produced. The light and the generator are both transported on their 104 special trailers. Now these bogie assemblies share similar functions as the 202 special trailers found on the Flak 36. The light was aimed manually via an optical sight, or aiming data was transmitted to the light via the command and control center, with elevation and traversing data transmitted via the transmitting device 37. The floodlight had a crew composed of a leader, a lamp operator, 2 lamp aimers, a lamp tender, and a machinist. The light could pierce the darkness with an output of 990 million candela, range of approximately 5 miles, and an effective altitude of up to 16,500 feet. Initial versions of the light were controlled manually via these hand wheels. Later models could be controlled remotely. Now the searchlight can traverse 360 degrees and elevation from minus 12 degrees through the vertical to minus 12 degrees on either side. Interestingly enough, the Treaty of Versailles forbade the development of these spotlights. The 24 kilowatt generator is powered by a 6-cylinder, 51 horsepower BMW gasoline engine manufactured in 1943. The generator supplied 112 volt, 200 amp current required for the carbon arc lamp. The power cables, there was one positive and one negative connecting the light to the generator. So how effective was the flak battery against Allied aircraft? The U.S. Army Air Forces lost 18,418 aircraft in combat over Europe, 7,820 of them to flak. Half of the 8th Air Force's casualties from June to August of 1944 were due to flak strikes, the highest percentage of casualties being the bombardier and the waist gunners. Early in the war, it was estimated that it would take 2,888 rounds per downed aircraft. In 1944, it took an estimated 16,000 rounds per downed aircraft. These numbers illustrate the lack of training and experience of the gun crews towards the end of the war. In conclusion, the 88mm Flak gun's enduring reputation stems from its innovative design, adaptability, and effectiveness in both anti-aircraft and ground attack roles. Its development, deployment, and operation reflect a remarkable blend of engineering, tactical evolution, and historical significance. With that in mind, it's fascinating to learn that both British and American artillery units adopted the use of captured 88s. In November of 1944, the U.S. Army's 32nd Field Artillery Brigade formed 2 provisional battalions fully equipped with captured German artillery. And as early as June of 1943, the U.S. Army printed a service manual for the Flak 36, TME 936-9 Alpha, following extensive evaluation of guns that were captured in Tunisia. Several European nations inherited tremendous amounts of German weapons and equipment left behind after the surrender of Germany, and continued to use those weapons beyond World War II. Norway being the most prolific user of post-war 88mm flak guns. Of the 505 flak guns left behind, 360 88s were pressed back into service and continued to see use until the mid-1960s. Now perhaps the latest end users were the Czechoslovakians. The 88 saw limited action in the Balkans during the 1990s. We hope you enjoyed the first episode on the museum's 88mm flak guns. In our next episode, we'll be taking a closer look at the mechanics of the gun, providing you with a better understanding of how the 88 works, and examine the 88's role as a ground attack weapon. Thanks for watching, and as always, please like and subscribe to our channel. I'm Dusty. We'll see you guys on the next one.